All right, this is SAT Prep. We are doing Test 3, Section 4, which is a calculator section, and this is number 4. The table above shows some values of the linear function f. Which of the following defines f? Okay, so honestly, a really easy way to do this is to go ahead and plug in 1 and see which answers you can knock out right away. Unfortunately, if you plug in 1, they literally all work, right? If you plug in 1 for n, 1 minus 3 is a negative 2, 2 minus 4, negative 2. They all work, so that's not helpful. You could then plug in 2 and see which ones still work, right? If you plug in the number 2, right, so if I plug in n is 2, I should get a 1 out. Well, if I plug in n is 2, 2 minus 3 is a negative 1, so it's not a, right? 2 times 2 would be 4 minus 4, which is 0, which is not the right number. 3 times 2 is 6 minus 5, that gives me a 1, so that's a contender, and 4 times 2 would be 8 minus 6, which gives me a 2, so that's not the right answer, so it has to be C. So all of them worked for the first point, but only one of them worked for the second point. It has to be answer C. That said, there is another way to do it, so this is if you just opted to plug in, right? That's one option. Again, plugging in the first point didn't help. The other way to do this, right, if you wanted, and you certainly don't have to, but the other way to do this is to recognize that your change in n, which is essentially your x here, is always a plus 1, right, for all of these, and your change in the y values, right, your change in f of n is a plus 3, so your slope should be a 3 over 1. If you recognize, sorry, the pen's the worst, if you recognize the slope is a 3 over 1, you kind of get to here automatically, meaning f of n should be 3n plus some b that we don't know, but we don't really have to because there's only one possible answer that has a slope of 3. And then, like, the last option, if you really wanted, is if you really stubbornly wanted to find b, or if there were other answers in this problem that had the same slope, you could certainly plug in a point. You could use this point, for instance. So you could say negative 2 equals 3 times 1 plus b, so negative 5 is your b, and that's how you would get this answer. Again, the trick is that with multiple choice, it's really not about doing the problem, it's about picking the right answer, and most of the time you can do that faster than doing the entire problem.